There was a reason why we had Medicaid expansion in just about every single motion that we could possibly put it in. It's because it's that important not only to the people who would be covered by the Medicaid expansion, but to the state budget as a whole. And as we have said all along, you take the Medicaid expansion, you leverage $1.3 billion, you save $324 million, you spend more money on K-12 education. We can spend more money on special education. We can spend more money on the university system, and on and on and on. And the Republicans' failure to do so for nothing more than political reasons is a huge financial mistake. And as we'd said earlier, ever since the inception of the Affordable Care Act, we've said no to about $3 billion, which is just financially irresponsible on behalf of the Republicans. So we will continue to deal with Medicaid expansion. We'll try and deal with it on the Senate floor. I'm sure they'll try and deal with it on the Assembly floor. There'll be a couple more chances to actually accept the expansion, and so we can put more money into our classrooms. And again, as I said from the beginning, you pull that Medicaid expansion string and the entire budget comes undone. And that's what the Republicans did, and that's what happened. Chris?
Yeah, this Governor Evers showed us that you could do a big, bold budget, investing in a substantial way in the priorities of what the people of the state are. And those are really the three that he talked about when he was running. It's education, it's roads, and it's healthcare. And the budget that we had hoped for obviously made investments in all of those areas while still cutting taxes for the people who need it the most, while making investments in our key infrastructure. And that's what we had hoped that we would accomplish during this budget cycle. I think what we're coming up with at the end of the day is something that is extremely lackluster and very mediocre when compared to what the governor was proposing. And part of that is because our Republican colleagues at the end of the day were not willing to take billions of dollars in federal money, and they weren't willing to even do small caps on the biggest tax giveaways to millionaires in the state's history. If they had done that, we would have had the revenue to make the big, bold investments that this governor had hoped to, and the investments that people told him they wanted. And so it's really a missed opportunity, I think, at the end of the day. As relieved as I am that, for now our work on the Joint Finance Committee is done, I'm also really sad because the people of this state really deserve so much more. And this budget at the end of the day really falls short.
I'd first like to applaud Governor Evers for doing his job, for listening to the people and taking what they said and putting their voice into the budget. This was definitely the people's budget. We heard that from every site that we visited during this budget listening session. Unfortunately, because of our Republican colleagues, the budget fell short. They did everything to strip the people's voice out of this budget, but Democrats are going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to stand up for the people, and we're going to continue to listen. And as much as I want to say that, this was a worthwhile experience, it was definitely an experience. What kind, I don't know. But I am thrilled that Democrats did what we continue to do year after year, and that's stand up for the people.
So I mentioned in my comments today that Governor Evers was elected governor because of his commitment to fix healthcare, our schools, and our transportation infrastructure. And you saw over the last couple of weeks that Governor Evers led on those issues. He proposed solutions that were long-term and responsible. And you watched over the last couple of debates as legislative Republicans tried to catch up to Tony Evers' lead. And we've pointed out some of the places in their attempt to catch up to Evers' leadership where they've fallen short. The last point I want to make is that this process is not done. We're going to go celebrate the fact that Joint Finance is done, But remember that this bill now heads to the Senate floor and to the Assembly floor, and there are still opportunities for people in the state of Wisconsin to have their voice heard. There are still changes that can be made for the good or for the bad. So stay tuned as we continue to fight for things like special education investment and Medicaid expansion. Thank you.
Questions?
Should Governor Evers veto the entire budget?
That's going to be his call. I mean, I am sure that they are looking at all sorts of vetoes as it stands right now. We don't know what the final product is going to look like in the end. It could change. It sounds like they may be short of votes in the Senate, so the budget certainly could change. And again, how they choose to deliver the document to the governor, whether it's 2 documents or 5 documents or however they deal with it in the end, that'll be up to the governor.
You know, and I think it's really up to the people. I mean, are the people of the state satisfied that special ed funding was 84% less than what this governor proposed? Are people satisfied by that? Are people satisfied that the UW system that has been cut by $8 billion in the last 8 years gets about, at the end of the day, $45 million in new money, but they have to go to joint finance to get it? Are people satisfied that there's no long-term solution proposed to our transportation infrastructure? So at the end of the day, I think it's really up to the people.
Anything else? All right, thanks.
There's a question.
Well, yes.
Has there been any research done on how the Republican alterations to the budget are polling, on how people do that?
No.
So for you guys, is the problem that because it's so built around Medicaid expansion, do you feel like that's the biggest problem that you have with it?
Well, I have a problem with out-of-state drivers not paying their fair share to use our roads. I mean, I have a problem with the fact that Ray Cross has to come back to joint finance to get the money he was promised to begin with. I've got a problem with the fact that they cut special education by 83% and K-12 funding by about 60%. So there are a lot of problems with this, but it does start with Medicaid expansion, because you take the expansion, you get the federal funding, that frees up more money to do more things. And so when the Republicans said no to that, they were essentially saying no to a very bold, thoughtful, person-driven, people-driven budget by Tony Evers.
Yeah.
I guess, go ahead, sorry.
Well, not many states have left that much money on the table. I mean, let's just be honest about it. You know, we have Republican states, we have purple states who've taken the Medicaid expansion. No state has done, but the Republicans did in this state, and that is partially expand Medicaid, but take no new federal dollars after doing so. It makes no fiscal sense. It makes no economic sense. It's actually the question I'm asked the most by people right now. It's like, why the heck didn't they take all of those billions of federal monies? And it's really hard to understand why that didn't happen, but we know it was political at the end of the day. It had nothing to do with the health of our state, with the health of our people. It was a political decision.
All right, thanks.